Imagine a ruler so feared that his name alone sent shivers down the spines of his enemies. In history records, very few names have brought such fear as Vlad the Impaler. He didn't just punish his enemies and people he found at fault, he carried out unimaginable horrors, particularly targeting women with his brutal methods. Vlad the Impaler's reputation as a sadistic tyrant was well earned. But who was he? And what exactly did he do to earn such ill fame? Join us as we unveil Vlad the Impaler's history and the harrowing tales of torture that defined his rule. Vlad III, better known as Vlad the Impaler or Vlad Dracula, was a 15th century prince of Wallachia. He was born in 1431 in Transylvania, which is now part of modern-day Romania. His father, Vlad II, was the ruler of the Wallachia Principality, which was located in the south of Transylvania. Vlad II earned the nickname Dracul after his induction into the Order of the Dragon, a Christian military organization. The Roman emperors supported the organization. The nickname Dracul meant dragon. Wallachia and Transylvania, however, often clashed due to a lot of triggers. Their geographical positioning and religious differences were some of them. Wallachia and Transylvania were geographically located at the crossroads between two major cultural and religious spheres: Christian Europe to the west and the Ottoman Empire, which was predominantly Muslim, to the east. This positioning made them a buffer zone and often a battleground for the competing interests of the two civilizations. In 1442, Vlad II went to meet Sultan Murad II on a diplomatic mission. He was accompanied by his sons, Radu and Vlad III. However, the meeting turned out to be a setup, and they were ambushed and captured. Vlad II decided to leave his sons as hostages as a way to secure his release. The two young men received an education in science, philosophy, and arts during their time as hostages under Ottoman control. They also became very skilled horsemen and warriors. It wasn't an all-rosy experience, though, because it's believed that Vlad III may have been tortured and imprisoned during his time there. Other records claim that he witnessed the impalement of Ottoman prisoners. This experience later on played a big role in influencing his methods of punishment. The misfortunes experienced by Vlad III and his family only got worse in 1447. His father, Vlad II Dracul, was deposed and murdered by local nobles. His elder brother Marcia was subjected to severe torture, which included blinding, and he was buried alive. Seeing how Vlad III later turned out, there have been speculations that these disturbing and traumatic events he experienced did influence his psychological development greatly. They may have fueled and motivated his sadism and cruelty. After these tragedies took place, Vlad III was freed from Ottoman captivity. In 1453, a significant change in political and territorial dynamics in Europe happened. The change was caused by the Ottoman Empire's capture of Constantinople. The event established the Ottomans as a dominant power in the region. As a result, the conquest of Constantinople heightened fears in Europe of further Ottoman expansion into European territories. This shift led to increased efforts by European states to defend against the possibility of further Ottoman invasions. When Vlad III returned to Wallachia, he reclaimed his position as ruler. His first task was organizing the defense of Wallachia against a potential Ottoman invasion. Vlad III solidified his authority and established control over the region after he decapitated his rival, Vladislav II, in 1456. It was the pivotal moment that enabled him to start his rule. Although Wallachia had achieved some level of power and control, it was troubled by internal conflicts. These issues were mainly caused by disagreements and disputes among the local nobility and led to strife and destruction within the region. In a calculated attempt to crush resistance and strengthen his control, Vlad III held a banquet and presented it as a gesture of goodwill. However, it was a guise, and the event turned out to be a massacre. Vlad carried out the impalement of the local nobility in attendance. This horrific act was meant to get rid of threats to his rule and create an atmosphere of fear. This method of torture, impalement, involved the insertion of a wood or metal pole through the body. The wood or metal pole was passed through the lower limbs and emerged on the shoulders, neck, or mouth. The victim's legs were each tied to a horse while a lubricated, sharpened stake was slowly driven into the body. This method was very horrific and caused a lot of pain because it was meant to prolong the agony for as long as the victim could take it. In order to prevent immediate damage to internal organs and possible quick death, the pole was rounded. After insertion, the pole with the victim on it was mounted vertically for public display. The victim was then left to die slowly, often over several days, wallowing in extreme pain. Vlad III, despite his sadistic rule, brought order and stability to Wallachia, and that's acknowledged. However, the inhuman methods he used to sustain his power and control remain to be his reputation, and they're well recorded. In 1459, Vlad III carried out the execution of dozens of Saxon merchants in Kronstadt. The merchants' execution was because they were opposing his actions and influence. Vlad III executed them by hanging. Whenever Vlad III interacted with the Ottoman Turks, the events were tense and often ended up with brutality. For instance, in 1459, a very disturbing event occurred when Vlad III met Ottoman envoys. It all started when the envoys refused to remove their turbans upon meeting him. They gave religious restrictions as their reason, and Vlad III praised their devotion before ordering the turbans to be nailed on their heads. This act was meant to ensure that the turbans stayed in place permanently as a way of mockery and humiliation. The action was not only a demonstration of his contempt for the Ottomans, but also a brutal statement to assert his dominance and show everyone the consequences of defying him. In 1462, Vlad III wrote to a military ally about his campaign against the Ottomans. In the letters, Vlad III wrote in detail the events of his brutality. In his own words, Vlad III claimed to have taken the lives of 23,884 people. Shockingly, those killed in combat and burnt in their homes weren't included. Vlad III's brutal actions during this campaign showed how willing he was to go to unspeakable lengths to ensure the Ottoman Turks didn't expand their empire. The estimated number of people whose lives Vlad III took during his reign is 80,000. All these people were killed through various methods. Among the 80,000, around 20,000 people were executed, and their bodies were displayed outside the city of Targoviste. The purpose of this horrific display was to scare off his enemies, especially the Ottomans. For instance, when Sultan Mehmed II, who was leading an invading Ottoman army, came across the forest of impaled bodies and the widespread, severe destruction and loss of life associated with Vlad III, the horrific sight and stench terrified him so much that he decided to retreat. While Vlad III is mainly known for using impalement, he had other cruel methods that he subjected his victims to. One of these disturbing methods was boiling people alive. This approach is another example of how far he was willing to go to instill fear and maintain control. Vlad III used different methods depending on what he had against the victim and the message he wanted to convey. In certain extreme cases, mothers were forced to impale their own children. Vlad III arranged the stakes with his victims in various geometric patterns around the cities he targeted. It was a strategy meant to instill fear and mark territories. The height of the stake depended on the victim's social status. The bodies were left to decompose for months as a stern warning to others. Now, Vlad III used impalement and other gruesome execution methods not just for political reasons, but also to enforce his moral and social standards. Other than his political enemies, he also extended his cruelty to civilians, especially women, whom he targeted under the guise of moral uprightness. Civilians accused of crimes ranging from dishonesty to moral failings were also recipients of his disturbing punishment methods. He'd reserved a harsh punishment, particularly for women accused of sexual impropriety. Historical records show that Vlad III subjected women to horrific treatment. These gruesome acts were carried out as punishment for sexual misconduct, like premarital sex and adultery. His extreme methods included the mutilation of genitalia and breast. Vlad III also subjected these women to skinning, exposing them to wild animals, boiling them alive, and his most preferred execution method, impalement. In a certain instance, a woman was subjected to mutilation before being impaled and publicly executed. This disturbing experience she went through was punishment for infidelity. Merchants who were found guilty of stealing and other dishonest practices were subjected to Vlad III's ruthless enforcement of his rules. They suffered the same brutal fate as the one experienced by those condemned for moral misconduct. Vlad III carried out these actions in order to instill fear and maintain control over his territory. These disturbing acts left an indelible mark in history, labeling him a figure of extreme hostility and inhumanity. In other political instances, Vlad III established a rule focused on dismantling the local nobility of Wallachia. As they were known for their capability to destabilize and overthrow rulers, Vlad III saw them as a threat to his power. Vlad III therefore took the measures he could to ensure that his authority was unchallenged and absolute. He eliminated many members of the old local nobility families and replaced them with loyal subjects from the middle class and free peasantry. Because these new appointees owed their positions and status solely to Vlad III, he was able to reduce the chances of rebellion and strengthen his authority. Examining the harrowing history of Vlad the Impaler confronts the depths of human cruelty and the extremes of authoritarian control. The unspeakable tortures inflicted upon captives, particularly women, reveal a grim chapter in history, marked by brutality and fear. While Vlad the Impaler's reign is remembered for its sheer brutality, it also serves as a stark reminder of the capacity for violence in the pursuit of power. It's crucial to recognize these dark episodes as not just historical curiosities, but profound lessons on the importance of justice, humanity, and the need to guard against such abuses in any era as well.